Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm Emily Moyer. Michael Wan is here with me, and we have reached the 33rd degree of Project Kittery. Congratulations, Michael. Here we are.
All the hard work is finally paying off.
Right?
Here.
Yes.
What day of the week? We don't have a Tuesday morning, though.
No, it's good morning. It's Saturday morning, and it doesn't even feel like Saturday because it's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So it feels like it should be Monday-ish because we had Thursday and Friday off. And yeah, everything's all sort of
wonky is what they call it. I think that's
wonky.
They call it. Yeah.
Discombobulated, right?
I'm discombobulated. It is wonky.
And the original intention, and I should never do this, was to sort of like take some time off this weekend, right? Like have a quiet weekend, relax and whatnot. And I ended up like packing our weekend full of so many things that it's like, it's like a whole second, I wouldn't want to say work week because most of the things we're doing are, with people that we want to be doing them with and whatnot. But relaxing and just like doing nothing, I don't know. We did do that on Thanksgiving. We did almost nothing. But other than that, I've managed to pack our holiday weekend full of all sorts of interesting stuff.
You want to give us a little bit of insight into what you got planned for this weekend?
So
just give me one tidbit. Give me one highlight of what's on.
Well, today's really cool. So today, we're going to go to Robert. We're going to go to Fredericksburg for a couple of hours this afternoon to go to Robert Phoenix's post-Thanksgiving, secondary Thanksgiving thing for friends.
Is that like, do a bunch of people go to it, or is it like really small? Or
so there's always like a few people who are like some of his listeners and friends that live in Central Texas that are there. And then there's always a few people that happen to be in town from somewhere else or something like that are from the sort of, alternative information sphere kind of thing. And then there's some locals there that he's, sort of picked up as, as cult members or friends or whatever, right? So we're going there for a couple of hours. And then of course his lovely girlfriend Joan is always there as well. So we're going to go there for a couple of hours and then we're coming back. And so one of my like longest listeners, like since the very earliest days that with Randy, I'm going to get to meet today. We have kind of like double things in common because she's also a techno artist and DJ. And she has a booking here in town with her boyfriend, who's like a very well-known in the lore of American techno, like history and
techno celebrities. You're going to be.
He has a very like he has always done a very good job maintaining his sort of underground creds, and both in terms of like his persona and the music that he creates. So he never like did the I'm a famous DJ thing, really. Mm-hmm. He's maintained sort of, his aesthetic and his idea of what that should be, despite all the craziness that's gone on around him at times. Okay. But he's, he's made over the years some music I really like, other music that is not most my style, but he has a very definite sort of perception and idea as far as his music goes. I don't know how that matches up to who he really is as a person, because sometimes people put on a different kind of thing for that.
Oh, so is this going to be your first time kind of meeting him as a human being?
Yes, I've heard him play before, but this will be the first time that I hear it.
I like that. I love like when you go from the I know someone from one level, and now I'm going to meet them like on a more like human level, and like what are the surprises? What were the wrong assumptions? All of that sort of stuff. I dig that.
Yeah, and his musical perspective plays around with all of the same ideas which you and I are interested in, right? Okay. So they have a new album out together that just came out on Tresor, which is like one of the most legendary techno labels, called The Lion and the Ram, that is really good. That speaks to like a lot of what's been going on the last couple of years with the people, both in the atmosphere and inside the body, and what's going on, the relationship between that. But the album of his that sort of spoke to me the most was from several years back now, but it was called Traversable Wormhole, right? So he plays with a lot of the same ideas, which have been like, some of the bread and butter of our work together, right? And yeah, so and I'm excited to meet her. She's been around since really day one, right? And she's one of the few people that shares my informational interests and my musical interests, right? Like it's sometimes hard to find that combination in people. Like people can only take so much outside of the norm and and you know, weird stuff and whatever.
Right.
But she's my sister in both, so I'm excited. So I'm excited to do that tonight, so it'll be a late night for me, and that's what we're doing.
I'm already down the line and the RAM line. Like it's like I typed that in real quick, and
So look up the Lion and the Ram Tresor, Tresor.
Right, I see that came up, and I saw the
titles of the songs.
Yes, but then there was this other thing that came up from it's this 1970s here album. I'm going to just show you because this is where
I saw that. You're right. I saw that when I looked up
there. Oh, the one with the guy with the glasses. And
I didn't look into it, but I saw that there was another album of the same name. So tell us about it.
Well, just look at the image. Like that's what I'm going to pull it up on the screen.
Okay, let me give you screen share. Hold on a second.
Okay,
there you go. You got it now.
All right. So, so this.
Yes, I saw that picture.
And so, like, who is this Lori Court? Like this couple right here. This is 1976.
Yeah.
No, I think that really is interesting to me. I have a good friend. His name is John Modern, and he is the head of the Religious Studies Department at Franklin and Marshall. And maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, he was invited to do a sabbatical at, I can never remember what it's called. It's IAS or the initials. I think it's the International or the Advanced Studies School or something like that. It's tied into Princeton, and it's for John von Neumann.
Yes.
And so he's been there. Well, he and his wife is Libby. She has an art gallery, and she's a graphic designer, and they do all sorts of like performance art. And they've started this project called The Machines in Between. And they're like kind of exploring like the same thing, which we're doing. And they opened this thing up like 2 weeks ago called the Church of Vinyl. And so they have the entire place, like the entire like main room gallery of their place, which is called Modern Art. That's her last name. And it's filled with these 1960s, 70s, and 80s album covers, but they all kind of have this like spiritual sort of like tongue-in-cheek play to it. Like one of them was called like Sex in the Bible, and the like Jimmy and Tammy Faye Baker albums, but it's all done kind of ironic.
Right.
Those two, John Modern and his wife Libby, look just like those two, like you just saw.
Yes.
So now there's this bleed over. Like now we're dealing with that sort of concept. And like what you're saying with the music with your friends is like it deals with what you and I talk about here. I would say the same thing is true with like what John and Libby are doing with this like Machines in Between. So
what's interesting, I think that would be how certainly they would both describe their music is the machines they use to join the sort of realms, right? The machines in between, because of all the technology and what they use to create the sounds that they do. But also one of the things about him is that he was part founder and owner of one of the most iconic techno labels, but also it was at one point a record store as well that started in the 90s. So your friends have the 60s, 70s, and the 80s covered. They start in the 90s, right? And I'm sure have an appreciation for tongue-in-cheek irony as far as like, titling records and tracks and projects and things like that. So
well, if I were to guess, like if I were to go one step further, I would imagine my friend, considering like his real interest in music is like stuff no one's ever heard of, or like never, like he probably is familiar with this label. Like he's an academic, so he brings an academic like approach to his interests, which definitely includes like all of the music aspects. So that should I bet you those circles overlap there as well.
Well, he definitely has a lot of dance floor oriented music, but he also does experimental sound, right? And weirder, like just sound, like, exploring soundscapes and things like that, right? Which is probably maybe more where their crossover might be, right? In terms of like that type of thing. But yes, anywho, but did you check out the titles of some of the tracks on the The
No, I didn't. So I'm going to go back and look at that because I saw, where was it? Tresor Records.
Tresor,
Tresor.
Tresor. Yeah.
Breathe it in, subterranean caverns, psychic vulture, caged animal, buckled up, corrupt pigs, human replacements. So now we've got the machine, subliminal messages when it all ends.
It's
Oh,
really
that
good.
sounds good.
Yeah. So anywho, so that will be my day. So that's just today, but that's the plan. So and
They're
anyway,
German?
they live in Germany. They're both American, but they live in Berlin. Okay.
Welcome to the land of fuck.
But actually, this conversation that we sort of opened with leads into what I want to talk to you about in every way, which I did not know when we scheduled this show and whatever. I didn't know that things were going to overlap so perfectly, but they actually really do. So, Michael, I have to tell you something. We've been watching
something which I don't know that you're going to tell me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So over the course of our time working together, I've suggested or asked you to, but I've never been like belligerent about asking you to watch something, right?
Okay.
Right. I understand that is mostly a losing proposition with you, right? Because you don't watch a lot of things for different reasons than I don't watch a lot of things, right? But you're just doing what you're doing, and that's what you're doing. You're not. I completely understand you at this point. But if there was one thing I could say, Michael, you have to watch this because just because of what the topic is that's being dealt with, and the way it is so completely lined up synchronistically and synchromistically with what we're doing, where we're at, and even the words that come out of Laura's mouth. Right, is magical in a way that I find very important. So, and even how I found out about this, and actually, you know what? Now that I realize it, people that we were just talking about, she told me to watch this a couple of years ago, and I didn't watch it.
Okay.
Right, and that podcast I was on a few weeks ago that I think you were on the week after, called The Melt. They brought it up.
I'm on The Melt next or in December, so I've not been on yet.
Okay. All right. So I was on just a few weeks ago, and they asked me about it when I was describing Chatsworth and also the nature of some of what you and I do together. They asked me if I had seen this show, and this show is called Dark, and it's a German television show that it's available on Netflix, and at this point you can get it dubbed. It's dubbed in English, so you don't just have to read the subtitles. They've overlaid it with English words, which make it a little bit easier, right? It's hard when you have to look at the words in the screen for every minute of the show, right?
That's literally though how I watch all shows. I only read the subtitles.
We do too. You told me that trick, and it's really helped me a lot because my hearing isn't great, right? So it's not that my hearing isn't great. My hearing picks up a different set of sounds than what is like the main thing that most people do. Right. So for me, like the background noise drowns out what people are saying. And so I have a hard time following some of the storylines of movies and television shows. So anyway, they started saying, oh, like in the show Dark. And I was like, well, I don't know. I thought they were talking about another show called His Dark Materials that I did watch a few episodes of. But no, this is not that. So Laura and I decided to start watching it. And I can't remember if it was late in the first episode or early in the second episode. After one has already started to get the feeling that this is exactly what you and I have been talking about in terms of the area you grew up in, the area I grew up in, like what we've talked about. Is it possible that like there was some sort of, connection, like, whatever, like underground base that connects, or some sort of folding of the taco so that the two ends of the country can come together, and we were on some sort of underground exchange program with each other's lives and whatever. So we're already getting the feeling that we're dealing with a lot of the same stuff. There's the nuclear shit and, people missing in time loops and this, that, and the other thing. But a character emerges at a certain point. it's in this, I guess, so it's early in the second episode. And Laura says, wow, he looks like Michael. And the moment she says, the very fucking moment she says, he really looks like Michael, the word Juan appears on the screen, spelled exactly like your Juan. So I'm not, without getting too much into the details, because I want you to enjoy the show. There's so much there for us. I think it's very confirmatory on a lot of levels of what we've talked about, because if somebody else is saying all the exact things that we're saying, that we don't know, that lives in a different country, that all that kind of stuff, there's got to be some more firm basis for these experience and ideas than just the rantings of two wackadoodles like you and I, right? If somebody who's organized enough to put it into something like this, right? But everything we've talked about is really covered. So this young boy has gone missing, and the young boy's name is Mikkel, Mikkel, the German way of saying Michael, right?
Okay.
And this character that Laura says looks like you or reminds her of you is not Mikkel, but he is looking at he has newspaper collections, right? Because he's doing something that I'm not going to tell you about right now. But he has this newspaper article that is about like, who is Mikkel or where is Mikkel, right? And he has crossed out was it who or where? What is Vo? Where? So where? Because this boy is missing, right? So he has crossed out the where and replaced the German word for where with W-A-N-N, which in German is when. Wann or Wann in German is when. So he's changing the question from where is Mikkel to when is Mikkel. Okay. And then what proceeds from this, Michael, is literally it almost touches on every main point that you and I have touched on in terms of like what's going on, how, when, where, what, why, time, space, even symbology is pretty similar. The stories, the locations, all kinds of things like that, right? Have been top part of this, right? I think it has a magic to it that I think you'll really appreciate, the symbology to it. But I would really love, we're only 7 episodes in. So if you guys were to start watching, then it's something we could kind of track as we do shows once a month going forward or whatever, a little bit. But I think there's a lot there. And there's a tenor and a tone to it that is exactly the feeling of Chatsworth to me. And I imagine the feel of some of your childhood, and some of the characters in this show display some of the characteristics that you have described of yourself as a child and that I feel of myself as a child. And I think this goes a long way to explaining some of this, because once you've had an experience that either you don't completely understand or you completely understand, but nobody else would. And so like, there isn't really a way that you can share this with people. You become very lonely despite being surrounded by everybody. Right?
Yes. So I'm already like looking at this and I'm feeling a little bit like uncomfortable. Like in a good way. Like just the very fact that the first episode, the first season was released on my birthday.
Oh,
in 2017. Well, December 1st. So December 2nd. So is my birthday. So it's one day off. And I see that they keep on making reference to Michael, but then on the list of main characters, there isn't a Michael. So I'm not certain who Michael is. There's a Jonas Conwald.
Right.
But that's not Michael.
Well, who
is Michael?
So Michael, there's two. So, okay, I can't tell you. I have to.
Okay,
I don't want to ruin the show for you.
Am I asking questions that I should just not
I want you to, I don't want you to, when you're watching, I want it to unfold for you in the way it is unfolding for us, because there's a certain ability to like connect the dots that develops as the show goes on. That if I ruin it for you now, it's right.
All right. So now, I'm game.
There's one other thing I will say, and this lines up perfectly as well. The show deals with increments of time, and the increments are 33. And here we are at episode 33.
And here we are at episode 33.
And wormholes, which we talked about just a little bit ago with our friend here, traversable wormholes, right?
Right.
Are the main topic of the show. So all of this sort of folds in nicely together. But it, you know, one of the things that, as you and I, you know, moved from doing shows weekly to, you know, sort of just doing shows monthly, and, you know, me sort of pursuing some of this that we have been doing together on my own or with others in a variety of ways, you know, as this has been sort of developing over the last couple of months, I feel that I have come to an understanding of, and we talked about this a few shows ago, of who you are in a different way than you know, maybe day one we met, and of myself, and how experiences form a person and develops their character and their behaviors and their tendencies and their likes and their dislikes and their willingnesses and their unwillingnesses, and that there's certain because of some experiences we've had in our lives that have either been resolved or unresolved, there are certain ways of being we either can or can't be, right? Or we will or won't be. And this show is like, when I'm watching this, I'm like, the way these characters are developed is in that same sense of sort of understanding that I have developed about myself and about you, you know, over the time we've worked together, but certainly over the last bit, right? The last like 6 to 9 months has been different not just with you, but going through this with you has changed the way I deal with and relate to other people with all of this stuff as well, right? Because we are not all in the same place at the same time doing the same thing at every moment that we think we are. This is a grand illusion, right? And while there may be frustrations we have with one another, right? Like I have to allow you and the others who I feel close and meaningful relationships with the space and the time to explore that I afforded myself when those realizations hit me, and they don't hit us all at the same time. And you know, so this show is really like, this might be probably like one of the best done shows of this nature that I've ever seen. And the fact that like it has a very German feel to it, like that very sort of wet, dank, you know, mysterious, dark, which all of the stories we have been told about what Germany is, it has that. And I'm just flabbergasted at how closely it resembles Chatsworth.
From the little I saw, like just looking at the Wikipedia, like I'm like, yeah, everything which you're describing and why you're suggesting to watch it, like is really ringing true, and almost in like a like. Am I ready to see what this, like, what is this sort of key? So this is this is a great recommendation, and the fact that I feel what I'm feeling right now is an internal navigation system, which is like, yeah, you got to go and lean into this. There's going to be something there.
I think for you to enjoy, but also fertile ground for like for some things for us to explore together going forward.
So Wikipedia has it listed like in the introductory paragraph, kind of like laying out what the show is. It's like, and the show is listed on the BBC's 100 best shows, whatever, and it's number 58. And I'm like, of course, because we're living number 57.
Right. Well, and we just the last Class B game that just came out was 58. 59 hasn't come out yet,
exactly,
right?
Like it takes place in the fictional town of Wyndham, Germany, or whatever it was called.
Right.
Like the amount of bleed over between that is yeah. So okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot there.
Nervous though when you first started setting this up, and you're like, all right, Michael, I got to tell you something. I normally don't. I'm like, what is she going to say? And like, it was going to be the grand reveal of what this whole thing is about. But maybe this is still going to be that.
I think this is the grand, this, I think, you know, I mean, it's it's a couple seasons along the show. We're only in the first season. But I can already see, right, sort of what I can already see. Like this is, and this is not a show that many people are hip and onto. It seems kind of like the German version of Fringe, right? Which compared to all of the other J.J. Abrams shows that people watched, Fringe got the least amount of views and attention, though I think it was his best show, right? And this seems to be like kind of undergroundy in that way we were talking about earlier with our friends and stuff as well, right? Like there's some sort of, you know, this is not for everybody.
This
right?
is not for everybody. I like that.
Yeah.
It's for us.
The other thing, and I'm just sort of, I wouldn't say I'm just having this realization now, but it's crystallizing. You know how sometimes you can be sort of grouping some things together in your head, but you're not quite clear why, or things even occur simultaneously, but you're not quite clear why. I had an interesting, do you know who Sloane Bella is?
No.
She's a psychic.
I don't have a context.
She's a psychic, but she's a very good one, right? And she's someone who came to my attention back when I was doing the series of shows on Elisa Lam, one of which I did with you. Remember when we were talking about Elisa Lam, right?
Okay.
Okay. She was the, you know, the girl who was in the water tank on top of the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Remember we had some shows related to that. Okay. So people started sending me her stuff, and I've been watching her on and off for a couple of years now.
Okay, now I remember you talking about the psychic, yes.
So I had a reading with her the other day, right?
Okay.
And one of the things that she said, and I'm not going to go too far into this, was she placed a lot of emphasis on my brother who had passed away, which is not something I spend a lot of time thinking about anymore, right? Although I did just talk about it on the Melt also, right? Which is funny. Like I had just, I don't really talk about that. But she basically commanded me to pay more attention to the ways he's trying to communicate with me, right? And we got into some of that. And I think that overlaps with this as well. She indicated that like what happened to him was not about what, you know, they say happened to him. The story that they're telling in court and this and that and the other thing is not the real story. Right. It's like a much more of like a sinister, dark, Twin Peaksian or this kind of thing type of scenario. But when she was talking about him, there were some markers to her narrative about him that match up to the previous woman's son as well on a certain level. The previous woman my dad had really been with. And that gets into the last name of the person that your mom used to work for that we talked about last year in relationship to experimentation with PCP and other psychedelics in projects, right? And I didn't say anything about that to her. And she was like literally like picking on that, right? It was weird. Somehow in her head, she had my brother like intertwined with the younger son of the previous serious relationship my father had, which tells me, okay, like maybe there's some similarity between them, but that previous son, right? The last name is the name of the doctor that we're maybe saying ran some of these projects and programs that I had never quite put together, that my brother may have been my stepbrother who died may have been in the next generation of, and that may be some of what we're looking at here. Right. And it gets it.
What year did your brother die?
He died in 2005.
Okay.
2005. Right. So, but you know, he is a kid who lots of psychedelics as a kid, like claiming there was things around that no one else could see. And at the time I'm just like, oh, you're fucking crazy. But at this point I'm like, oh no, dude, he's just right. Like he was fixated on the birds, but which apparently now aren't real. Right. He was fixated on the birds. We would be like driving and he would duck. He would go like this. And I'd be like, what are you doing? He's like, did you see the bird almost hit your window? It just flew right into your window and there was no bird. Right. And at the time, I thought this was just the rantings of a crazy person. But for him, I think based on whatever, I mean, this is a kid who did like LSD every day when he was 12. Right. I think the veil had become permanently thin, and so that which we are speaking of that exists all around us, but just outside of our ability to perceive in a linear, orderly fashion, was part of his complete realm. And that's, I don't know why I haven't thought of before that that's like a sure sign of somebody under it, right? Of somebody from the project, right? So I had never thought of my brother that way before. I don't know why. Like, it's weird how you like overlook something that's staring you right in the face.
So obvious, correct.
And he's like, she's like, pay attention to his communications. And he like, I think he's been communicating for like a long time, especially since I've been here in Austin, right? But like, one just came out and pounded me in the face yesterday. That was just like, okay, like he's speaking to
being the reading you had yesterday, or something in addition.
So the reading was last week or earlier this week. It was earlier this week, but yesterday when I was on the way to work, I saw a thing and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what she's talking about, right? Like, okay, I get it. It's clear as day. It's presented in a way that like it could be nothing else other than he's trying to get my attention, right? And that I won't miss it and I won't confuse it for anything else. And that he's speaking the language that you and I have been working on decoding here for the last 2.5 years, right?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, anywho, and it all folds into that same shit, right? Like it all folds into like the Chatsworth and the Columbia, Maryland type thing, in this place that they're showing in the show as like, the dramatized version of that. I think we've been right about almost everything, Michael, right? And it's just obviously a TV show is a TV show, right? But like in terms of all the factors that we've nailed down, I don't think we've missed one.
So I don't say the TV show is just a TV show. I think
right.
Like, I'm not going to support that statement, but yes, I hear what you're. Yes. Okay. So go on.
Right. And so it just that layered on top of this as well, right, is just, and my brother was very much like some of the high school kids that they follow around in this show, right? Junior high school and high school and whatnot. And so just the way all of this sort of layered here on the week of our episode 33, right? And all the experiences that I've had are just, yeah. And it's good, even good we didn't record on Tuesday when we normally record. We were supposed to record that morning and I had my reading with her in the afternoon, right? So I wouldn't have known some of these things if we had recorded Tuesday morning as we were originally scheduled to do.
Yes. Okay. And we haven't even really gotten into the show yet, but but it's going in a different place. But what it seems like to me, what we're doing right now is we're dancing around like what we always do, like the interconnection of all of the different things. Okay.
Oh,
so like how everything's all interconnected. All right. So I want to go back I want to take 2 steps back before we go do a step forward to 2 steps back to where we began our conversation today.
Okay.
And I don't want to get too much into it, but I just want to go to like what it began with, like how you pointed out the TV show Dark, and how the TV show Dark was originally suggested to you by your friend who you're going to see. Is it tonight?
Today.
Okay.
Today. Yeah.
And then, so we've got that, and then how much Dark, like as soon as I saw that, like about like the German and the me, like I definitely resonated with that. But the entire conversation in this household, like which I'm sitting in, like with my family, like this is an uncommon in my biological family's like experience. Like we're all together. We haven't been around each other for 10 years. My sons are seeing their cousins, so my sister's son, for like the first time in 10 years. And like the last time they saw him, they were 6. So like there's like all this family stuff in play. And we talked, me as a family, we talked a lot about just like the genealogical history of the last name Juan and how it comes from Germany, and how no one knew what like how I did this research, and I'm sharing with it all of this research to them, which only came to my attention because of Mr. CC.
Oh,
Like
which we're
that
also
was
going to
the
talk about.
trigger. That was the trigger. That was the first domino that was knocked over, which then started. So all of that's like in the mix. So all of that being said, I talked about this. Then I went into this thing called the church, the vinyl church. And I think you would find it interesting for many, many, many reasons, because like the opening of this gallery event was all about this DJ had like a 90-minute mixtape which everyone listened to. And so I know that I don't know if you would necessarily like the music, but at least the idea of the DJ, the mixtape, that was all involved. We talked about the lion and the lion and the ram. So this is where I'm going with this. So I'm going to show you something again. Okay. We're going to go back to this. So we're going to go back to, where am I going to find this?
So just also, this is just occurring to me. My friend who we're talking about here, she lives in Germany now, and she is from I think she's from the Baltimore area. I think she's from Maryland.
All right. Find that out for certain.
Yeah.
Because so this is one standard deviation away. So somehow we went to this, right? So like this is the lion and the ram, but it's a different version of the lion and the ram.
Yes.
Other than by name, it has nothing to do with this lion and ram, correct?
Correct. I don't think so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, exactly. Like, but we could see this, and it's vinyl in 1976. So we've got this connection right now because I was talking about the vinyl church and all of that sort of stuff. So now I'm gonna pull this up. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like what I was talking about. That's the name of their art studio. This is the vinyl church. And like this is what they were doing, and they've got like the whole, like, let's see right here. This is going somewhere. So hold on. You could see on the walls in the background, all of the walls are covered with these album covers. Like here's some examples of the albums that are in there. All right.
Yep.
So here's some more pictures, blah, 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 blah. And then this is the guy who he and his wife are behind it. Okay. All right. So now let's go look at this. I think I got to go like that in order to go switch my screen share. So look at this. Him and him. Yep. They're the same friggin' person. Look at them.
They're very similar. And I would say, these
are the only images of the infinite images of whoever this Lori Coryell is, and the only image of John Modern of what we're talking about. It's all linked together through this lion and ram. Like we're looking at, we're working on a fabric of reality where like this exists. Like this is just like a snapshot of like, yeah, this is how interconnected all this stuff is. Like that is the same. And this is kind of what Libby looks like. Libby, his wife, the people who are behind the two things.
Okay, so
and read what this is. Neuromatic. This is what he was just awarded for his book Neuromatic: A Particle History of Religion and the Brain, and it's all about computers.
Well, listen to what Laura found too. The very first thing on the About section of their website says, the vinyl church is an interactive installation in which you become immersed in sound, vision, and vibration. Oh, like a rave. Like an underground warehouse party, right? Now, for preservation of privacy, unless people choose to go digging around on their own. And I didn't ask if I could talk about my friends today. And so I'm taking a lot of license today. But they look similar too. I'm not going to say, right? They look similar. They look like there could be like some relations there or whatever it is. And everybody, there's part of me that feels like I made them the subject of our show, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're gonna like that, but
trust me, I feel the same way right now. But I'm like, this is all public.
This is the way it goes, right? This is the way it goes, and everyone knows. So there you go.
It's the way it goes, and
everyone knows. Isn't that a song? There was like a song from like the 90s. That's the way that it goes. It's whatever. I forget what it is. Somebody was one of those like females with the sort of high voice that was popular in the 90s. Anywho, okay. So yeah, so there's similarities there. And then also, so what we're going to get into, you were talking about CC, and I've been thinking about CC a lot lately. And I've been even thinking about like, maybe I'll reach out to him for a chat, but, the last gift, or at least the last physical gift he presented me with, because I can't, I think there's been some email gifts, right? Some informational gifts after that. Was one that like we never really dug into, partly because the time that it arrived, like I remember starting to dig into it and just going, if I do this now, then it's going to distract me from everything else, which why I'm doing it. And I just was like, yeah, I don't have time right now. Like I can't, right? I can't get pulled away. But the gift was a pin, which it's oddly I can't find, even though I've never taken it anywhere. So it can't be anywhere but inside this small apartment. He sent me a gift that was a pin that said 33. And upon a little bit of research, I discovered that it was a pin from the 33 Club of Disneyland, right?
Serious?
Serious.
All right. All right.
So it was a pin from the 33 Club at Disneyland. And I remember looking into it a bit at that time. But where is there's like a metallic envelope that used to be here too. Wait a second, it was like a blue or purple metallic kind of envelope that was in the box, and it had, oh, I hope I didn't throw it away. I don't think I did. Remember I was going through mails. I hope I didn't throw it away. I wouldn't have. I didn't mean to. You were going to use it?
Yeah.
I
haven't used it.
Okay, well, whatever. We'll figure it out. But I was trying to look for the date of that package. But it had the 33 pin in it, and then it had this letter. And there's lots of interesting little nuggets.
It's sort of front and back?
Yeah, it's front and
one
back.
sheet. Okay.
One sheet, front and back, certain anomalies in there. It's interesting. When I read the letter, which I did a couple of times when it arrived last year, it struck me one way. And then when I knew we were going to, I looked at it again about a month ago when I knew that we were going to be talking, when I started to feel like we should talk about it for this show. It's interesting. 2 parts of the package are now missing. It's almost like we have a visitor or something. Anywho, I read it again about a month ago, and it struck me very different than it did when I read it last year. Now, the only possibility could be that I'm different, right? Unless the letter has been replaced, or I don't think that. I don't think that's what's happening. The only possibility could be that I am different and that the letter would be forecast. The whole gift was forecasting that we would be talking about this right now at episode number 33, when I think we're finally getting to the bottom of how this process actually works. Because in the letter, he calls it procedure. We can go, we're going to go through the letter here in just a little bit. Have you heard from your friend?
I've not heard from him since the bird cage.
Okay.
Which was,
so are you sure?
2 years ago.
So, because sometimes I get emails from someone that I know is him, and I actually know it's him, right? I haven't gotten one in a really long time, but there's something in the letter that refers to something that he didn't start either doing or making me aware of until after the letter, and that like one of the things that he sent me a link to was a YouTube channel that he started, right? And in which he's basically doing like children's stories and nursery rhymes and things like that, right? And if you remember, a lot of the links he sent to us in terms of like videos to look at or things were children's rhymes. Remember, we looked at the crisscross applesauce and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yes.
Right. So like, I think that, you know, when he sent it to me, I looked at it and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But like, I don't know, like I didn't, nursery rhymes and children's stories are not like the
Now you have a niece who.
the what?
I have a niece who's into that stuff.
Right. Yeah. I have my niece is, you know, she's getting to the age where she's into that, but that isn't like one of my, like the area that I would, that is the most interest to me. Right. So I was like, okay, like I can see he's doing something here, but it's not, this isn't like how I normally like figure out information or clues or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I just kind of moved on. The prior communication from him had been one that has come up in a lot of what we've done, and that would be the information about Edward Murray Bassett, the father of zoning, the namer of freeway and highway, and all of this kind of stuff, right? So Edward Murray Bassett, there was some interesting things about that email that I've never gotten to the bottom of. I don't know if you recall, but I sent you a video that was very strange.
Yes, the one in the ambulance.
Yeah, right. And so I have some ideas about what that might be. But I've not like, not well enough to say, oh, yes, I know exactly what this is or anything like that. Right. But those both, I can't remember if the ambulance video came before or after this gift, but I know for sure the communications where he led me to his YouTube channel about what that has the stories, came after. And I don't think I've had any more, let me see what you got here. Communication since then. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, yep. Wow. Huh. Okay.
June of this year.
Okay, so that's interesting.
That's real interesting, right?
Yeah. So mirrors are coming up over and over in shows I'm doing with other people, and they have for a long time. Like, I don't know if you never watched Fringe, but in Fringe, that was part of how they would communicate information across dimensions, was they would go into this back room at like a weird like pawn shop, and they would be in this room that was completely black, and there was this old typewriter, and they would send messages across universes using that typewriter. But there was this mirror that like was at a certain angle, right? And you could see their face in a certain angle, but then there was like, it was definitely, it's fascinating to me that that's exactly the picture we get here with what you're sharing. Should we, right? So, yeah, so he has a YouTube channel where he does all of these things. That's fascinating that there's what's HJ, what is this? Okay, Herald Journal. Yeah. So anywho, all right, well, he's been busy. I'll have to read the article. It's hard for me to read and be on the show at the same time. That's not
right. And I'm going to say one more thing too, which is also worthy.
Right. Yep. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if the things on his channel are him reading these, or if these are different ones. Yeah, there's another book. Okay, so there's another book if you go right down to the bottom on the left.
Okay.
I don't know if that same thing shows up for you as for me, but there's a castle on the front of it.
All right. What's it titled?
The Foiler Society, which is
I see that right there.
That's the name of his YouTube channel, The Foiler Society.
Oh yeah, and look at the author.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, okay. So, well, now that he's made himself public with all of this, I guess I can reach out to him and ask him if he wants to do a show. What do we got here? Yes, that we've known for a long time. Okay. Laura's finding his history now because she's looking him up. So,
well, I was trying to find what you guys were looking at.
So this, when you when you start to watch this show, right? Like, some of the actions are going to begin to make sense, right?
Yes.
Okay, because of what's happening. Like, ooh. So I don't want to say more about the show because I want it to unfold in its way for you.
Okay.
But the 33 pin, right, is fascinating. And I just am looking at this as well. This was from the first gift he sent me. There is this sticker on the front, right?
Yes.
And one of the things I'm doing, like, as part of where I'm going to go with the sort of fractals of our glass bead game, the first thing I'm going to be doing is with my friend Elisa E., who was really like she really helped me to understand the MKUltra experience in a different way than I had understood it before, right? And the very first topic we are going to be talking about
Rabbit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So it's been coming up in some fascinating ways. But whatever our friend is doing, like he definitely seems to have some ability to move forward and backwards in time.
Right.
And whether those be small and like I'm, you know, I'm not sure I'm completely understanding, you know, remember that was the signature of all of the physical gifts, basically, right? Is that they memorialized something that hadn't happened yet at the time he sent it, but it happened by the time we received it.
Yes.
He sent us a souvenir before we had the vacation.
Right, exactly. Like the Prestige movie before my boy, he sent that before the boys decided, like, let's go watch the Prestige.
Right.
And it arrived that the next morning.
And remember the I'm making a mess here.
And it's all about, like, this is about children's meditations.
And remember this.
Yes, the
bubble blower,
the bubble
but it's
blower,
also
a magnifying glass,
a looking glass,
yeah,
a looking glass, Project Looking Glass, right?
Project Looking Glass.
So anywho, okay, do we want to, I'm just going to start, let's go through the first paragraph or two of the letter, and then we will bring the opening hour to a close and move over to the supporters segment. Does that sound good?
Well, I was wondering, like, because I don't know if I want to break. Like, I'd want to do, or like, I don't want to break once we start. So I'm thinking, let's start. Can we stop or take our break right now so that when you begin with, like, going paragraph by paragraph, we don't have like an interruption?
Okay, so let's do that. So
all right.
Then we're going to move over into the supporters segment, patreon.com/offplanetmedia, projectkids.locals.com, or rockfin.com/Emily Moyer, also locals, emilymoyer.locals.com. I just completely forgot the address there. Michael and I, just an announcement for those who haven't been part of the glass bead experience, that Michael and I are putting a conscious pause on our practice of playing the glass bead game for now. Michael's going to go have his adventures, and I am going to take a deeper dive down some of these rabbit holes by myself and with some other people who I have come across during my explorations. And we may pick up again at the glass bead game the way we do it at some time in the future, but we will be continuing our monthly episode of Project Kids so that we can, you know, we're each going, what is it like when the person, like, they do their research and then they go out into the field and do their studies their own way, and then they come back and report and put the pieces together. So that's what we're doing here. We have 59 episodes plus some bonuses of playing the glass bead game. So for those of you who have enjoyed Project Kids and would like to dive deeper into all of these things which we talk about, that is there, that will be there. There will be things that I'm doing that are related to that will be available on those content pages. And so you can find those at the places I said just a minute ago. We're going to move over into the supporter segment. Please join us. We'll be right back.